some of the questions that you're asking and those kind of things. So that's kind of the class format, so that's what we would appreciate. So I'm going to begin, I'm going to put the ball on the tee and ask, so before in any relationship or when it's personal, whether it's personal or professional, what's one of the most critical things that we need to establish to start the relationship? Rapport. Trust. Booyah, you're the only one that said that. In the last couple of classes it was in kind of unison and I was ready just to stop the class, but you guys maybe are not as bright as the other class. Just kidding. So right, we need to establish trust. So how do we do that? So what are some of the things that you as reps do to begin the relationship and establish trust? What's your name, by the way, for those that?
Chris Lindsay.
I only ask that is because we've had feedback from other groups that since there's so many people that people know or don't know, when you do answer a question for the first time, you say who you are, that's been great feedback. So go ahead,
The
Chris.
question was how you build trust, right?
Yeah.
Too much.
How you do it? Yep.
Just about being honest. I mean, delivering on what you say and say what
You do what you say.
do what you said.
Perfect. Anybody else? Jeff, what do you like to do? How do you do it?
Getting that trust by being honest and like I said, setting the proper expectations and listening.
Great. We're going to get into a little more about setting proper expectations, and we like to use, I stole this from Tim Stilo, by setting the client up for success. What else? What are some of the other things that we do to build trust and get the relationship started so you guys get off on the right foot?
Humor.
Provide humor. One of the, stolen from Jeffrey Gitomer, and one of the things he says, if you can get him to laugh, you can get him to what? Buy, right? So injecting humor is perfect. So we've established that we need to, the baseline of the building block is we need to establish trust. You've had great insight on how we do that. So one of the things we don't want to do is we need to resist schmoozing. Nobody wants to be sold to like the used car salesman, right? So some of the things that we do need to do also is, like you said, is we need to use friendly banter throughout the conversation. By asking open-ended questions, really trying to find out, more about them. And Brenda's going to get specific in that as well. We also need to think about that the first impression is one of the most important things, whether we meet them face to face or on the phone, right? And I only say that is because when Brendan, Michelle, and I were putting this presentation together, a lot of times on the floor, and raise your hand if you're guilty of saying this, God, not another phone call, it's still ringing. Raise your hand, it's okay, right? 90% of you, why should that be? What kind of impression does that make to our clients, right? I want to change that mindset starting right now, that we need to think this is one of our most important tools, so we need to treat that as, every time I'm on that, it's two things. It's, I have no idea where the journey's going, so it's going to be fun, right? And B, that's money. That's ultimately what we're here for, is to drive money. And the journey is what we make it, by asking the right questions and all those fun things. So change the mindset to be excited, because that's like meeting someone new every single time, and that's kind of fun, right? So the next thing that you guys mentioned is setting proper expectations, or I like to use what Tim Stilo says is set the client up for success. And what exactly does that mean? Who said set proper expectations? Chris?
Just basically means that, he's coming to us because he wants to be the hero with his team or dance studio or whatever. And by us basically putting him in we drive the conversation, but make it about him and how, make him come off the hero to his parents is going to make him successful, which will make us in the relationship.
Perfect. I like how you said we drive the conversation. Part of setting them up for success is we need to take control when needed, right? We need to become the experts. What does becoming the experts mean? It means that we not only need to know our products and just the codes and things, but really we also need to know about the industry and the people that we work with. Meaning knowing the products doesn't just mean that this polo is the P23 whatever, or it's the Ultra Fuse. We need to know the features and benefits of it. So when that client calls, you're like, well, let me tell you how great this uniform is. Our uniforms feature an active stretch back. They've got bust darts. We're really trying to give you more of a custom fit at an in-stock price. So then you sound to that person really credible, knowledgeable, and like, wow, I'm glad I called this person. Now we're starting to build that relationship. A great example that was used earlier on the sports side was a client had called in to purchase, this is when I say know your industry, a client had called in to purchase basketball uniforms. So great, they walked them through, asked the great questions, and the rep said, well, how would you like the numbers to be put on there? And the coach says, well, just whatever you normally do. So what did we do? We numbered them 1 through 20. Well, guess what happened?
Violation.
Didn't work, right? So that still means knowing your industry and the people that you're working with. Do a little homework outside of work. We try to spend as much time with you guys too, but you guys got to get to know the people and the clients that you're working with. A, so you become credible, you build that trust. But B, so then you can take the lead a lot of times through the phone calls as well. And then you really are the expert to them and you give them no reason to really go anywhere else. I think of setting them up for success that's where you really get to sell to them. You get to sell the values to the customers. You get to sell, it's setting expectations for both sides. One of you, Chris, you said of what we're going to do for them, but the expectation is there's expectations that they have to do for us, right? Meaning we need to make sure that you've got to get your purchase order by this date. You've got to be looking to approve your artwork. I mean, it's the whole timeline from the minute you pick up that phone. What's one of the first questions we should ask them? When do you need it? It's probably a B answer. How about when's the first date that you're going to wear it? Because when you ask them when do you need it, what do they say immediately?
Right away.
Right. So does that really help you? So, but if you ask them what's the date, the first date you're going to be wearing it, they probably would say Valentine's Day, right? So whatever that event is. So you're thinking, okay, February 14th. So to set them up for success, you need to say, okay, I've got to have your order placed by this date, or we're not going to be able to meet your expectations. So to do that, here's all the things that we're going to do and the things we're going to provide. Here's what I need from you. So we're setting those expectations both ways, right? Does that make sense? Do I see some head nods this way? Okay. And so throughout that, I mentioned about values and some of the things that along the conversation we're trying to set the expectations. We should talk about what are some of the things that makes GTM great during the conversation, or what are some of those things that you as reps use to sell our clients on to help build that relationship with GTM and ourselves and you guys and yourselves. What are some of our values that makes GTM great?
Customer service.
Customer service, meaning what?
That they can call into someone or whoever answers the phone, they should be able to get the same answer.
Booyah.
They know the right same things.
How about convenience, right? We have customer experience in here. We have TSRs in here. We have inside reps. We need to start thinking about that in terms to our customers and think about, I like to use the term, how easy it is to do business with us. And I always tell clients sometimes, you know what, here's what my job is, and I'm going to do this for you and this, so you can do what you do best, and that's what? Coach your kids, right? So we need to make sure that we're driving some of those things home. That helps build credibility and builds trust with our clients. But we need to be also thinking about in terms of providing that service, exactly what you say. The last thing that I want to, what are some of the other values? We said service, guys, we've got a bunch. Hopefully we can just start. Free sample program, awesome. What, embroidered and in the blanks, right? Does everybody in here, I know the reason we're going back to the basics a little bit is, does everybody know that not a lot of our competitors even offer those things? I mean, they don't. That's an awesome value that we have, right? So for those of for a lot of the people that don't have reps out in the field, we need to say, I will get these samples out there to you so you can look at them at your own time and not have to make sure that, so if everybody's there at the time, you can also have them for a few extra days, etc. Really sell the value of why we offer these things so you can see how awesome the product is yourself. That's some of the reasons why we have that. It also shows that you believe in the product, it builds credibility and those kind of things with our clients. Any other values off the top of your head, Chris?
I guess it's just a feature, but full line decoration on site.
Perfect. That's been mentioned 2 or 3 times. It's awesome. We have really not just full line decoration. We start to finish. We own the products. So the benefit that you of the rep is if something goes wrong, we can fix it right away. We don't have to order it from a vendor to wait to get it in. So think about those things. Our art department, all the different product lines. These are all different things that a lot of people have mentioned. What about, we need to get back to this, but what about our turn times? Isn't that a value that we have? right? A lot of people, you're all nodding your heads. These are things I want you to think about, how to build trust and relationships with our clients, and usually try to get at least 2 or 3 in there throughout, whether it's face-to-face or on the phone with them. Does that make sense?
One of the things that I pitched to Judge Moore is we're built to fill your order. We want to make sure that you need your order and very quickly. Right. So I try to, throw that in the pitch every now and then.
I like it, because that shows that you're willing to do whatever it's going to take to help the customer, right?
Free shipping on orders over $200.
So how do we use that, Miranda?
Net 30 sample program.
So how would you sell, or how would you utilize that to really show the client that free shipping is really important?
Well, knowing your competitor set, a lot of the competitors actually charge shipping, so that's a savings there. Even on orders under 200, it's only $5 when industry standard is $9.95 for shipping. So
I even remember in some of these, more specifically maybe on the sports side, but it could be on the spirit side too, a lot of the POs say what, add 10% for shipping, right? So think about that, is the schools are even already used to doing that. So the conversation needs to go something to the effect, Brandon, I don't know, I just want you to know one of the values that we offer is free shipping on any order of $200, and I've seen on a lot of purchase orders it says add 10%. So if you as a coach, do you want to utilize that money to get polos for yourself and your other coaches, that's a great way to do it because your school's already expecting to pay that amount anyways. So those are just a couple tips on how we can build a relationship, but that all takes time. You all mentioned great things, doing what you say you're going to do. Michelle's going to even get in a little more specifically about that. Right now, Brenda's going to talk about specifically some of the questions that we ask to get to know our clients and our industry. So.
Corey mentioned about how important trust is in building a relationship. So what I'd like to do is just have an open discussion of what are those questions that you ask when you're trying to build a relationship with the customer on the phone. What things are you asking to get to know them or to help them out?
How'd you hear about GTM or my name or whatever?
How'd you hear about us?
Why are you asking that, Chris?
Well, I want to find out first if I got a referral, and if I did, then I want to give a thank you or something to whoever referred. And secondly, just to see what's working.
Right.
You know.
Matt?
How long have you been coaching for? How long have you been at this school? 'Cause a lot of people change schools and then call you when they're new school, or they'll be like, I'm a new coach, the old coach used to order from you here. Sometimes you can get 2 people out of that. If with the new coach, you can find out where the new coach, you can find out where the old coach went, because she's probably gonna use you again in the future. And you have a new lead for no, just because the old customer is there.
how's your season going?
How's your season going?
Season going, you bet.
For the new customer, what's your mascot? What's your mascot?
And why are you wanting to know that?
Well, that ties into your whole decoration process and colors.
How about, why wouldn't we ask every single time, what got you into coaching? Why, don't we think why do we want to know that?
Because you can know whether they've had previous experience coaching, or if they got thrown into it, or they volunteered, or...
Booyah. I want to know it for all those reasons. I want to think, I'm really hoping that they come out and say, because I'm a first-time coach and my daughter's on the team, because then, man, my light's just going off, and I'm thinking all the things that I can't wait to ask them about themselves, but also tell them all the great things that we can do for them and show them, because then you can really sell to them and they really have no other reason to go anywhere else, right? How many of you ask, what's your budget? Show of hands, 2, 3?
I don't unless I never talk money unless somebody wants to know.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, how many ask, who do you currently work for? Who do you currently purchase from? Couple? I would almost try to move that up the list higher possible. Why do you ask that so much?
Well,
Shannon?
sometimes I ask, how do you fund your purchases? Because that can kind of tell you your budget and then how they work all at once. So
Okay.
if they say, oh, the parents pay for it all, it's kind of like maybe your parents have money and maybe, you'll tend that way. Or it's like, well, we don't come from a very good, we come from like kind of lower
Right.
place, and the parents, they do fund most of it. So it's like, you can tell, even though those are the same answers, you can tell where they're kind of sitting.
Right.
And then I kind of ask them, what's your wish list? And then see how much you can get for them for their budget and what products you kind of go towards.
I like that, what's your wish list, because then it opens some more doors. And if you've noticed, all these are all open-ended questions too, so it does help to get that coach even talking more to find out more answers. One thing I would like to step back to, and Brecken brought this up, and I thought was a really good point. You know, she had made note of when her phone rings and she's picking up that call, she turns herself completely away from her desk so that she's not trying to multitask and key in an order or look at her emails. She wants to give her full undivided attention to that customer so she can hear every little bit, because as you're talking to them on the phone, different times they may mention just things kind of at random of like, oh, we're going to a parade in a couple months, like just little things that you may not think anything about them now because maybe they're just asking about warm-ups, but it's like it opens a lot of doors to other things as to what's next. So no matter what's next should be one of the questions that you are asking throughout this conversation. Your whole goal is to have a year-round plan with this coach. So, and if you're not going to sit there and maybe drill them on the first phone call with it, but it's like ultimately that's what your plan should be, so that you have a year-round plan with this. In your packets, you should have about in the middle, it's our PowerPoint presentations at the front, but in the middle there's a list of the 60 open-ended questions, and then on the page right after that is an additional 10. What I would challenge you to do is just, not necessarily to memorize all 60 of those or 70, but just pick out maybe your top 5 of things that you want to make sure that you know that you're asking, that if you feel like maybe you get stumped on trying to keep a conversation going with the coach, to try to get that information. So just pick 4 or 5 of those, print those out, put them up by your computer, and that way you'll have those handy. Does that make sense? I would probably say, I mean, you're going to ask some yes or no questions, but I would probably tell you to try not to do a lot of those, because it's real easy for a coach to go, yep, nope, and it doesn't get your conversation going anywhere, and it's harder to maybe pull out that information that you need to try to help them. Other things to do is try to find a common interest with them. It may be that where they're from, it may be that you know someone there, or maybe the sport that they play, maybe you played it too. Just finding that little bit of common interest helps everybody to kind of bring those barriers down, and helps you to build a relationship a little bit more with them. So what types of other things do you guys do to try to build a relationship?
What other sports do you coach?
Yeah.
Because a lot of 2A and smaller schools, double-headed, actually got an additional sale because of it. The dance line, flag line for the band, and their debate team for polos.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's a good one to ask. Yes, Matt.
I ask most of my cheer customers what competitions they're going to and if they're hosting a competition this year. I coach as well, so I usually I go to, sometimes I'll stop into certain ones if it's a customer of ours. Some of my customers let us do a table for free because they do the shirts from us. So I make sure I go there early in the day, drop off catalogs. That's why I always ask if they're hosting, and I try to finagle GTM as a sponsor without really doing a sponsorship. And because most teams need fundraising, so they usually host their own for some sort of money.
So when you're wanting to know what events they're going to, besides you going to them, how else do you use that information?
I'm like, I'll be there with my team as well, or I might know the coach that is hosting that competition because I do business with her as well. I'm like, oh, you go to Sachem East High School, I work with them as well, we did warm-ups for them. She's like, oh, I like those. That means just always opens up further of a conversation, small talk, or people that you might know the same person of, coach somebody that they coached, something along those lines.
Or
So
someone
if you
you
get-
don't know.
Yeah.
What's that?
Someone you don't know too. So like in some of the conversations that I've had asking that question, it's fact finding too. So there was, who do you compete against at the all-star level? Sometimes it's, new teams are popping up, and that's a way to figure out, well, I don't know who coaches that team, or so that way you actually are getting, they don't know they're giving you a referral, but that's what you're extracting.
I was also going to take Matt's a different turn too, and make sure that when you get that information, note it in CLM, and then schedule yourself a follow-up after the conversation. It doesn't always have to be about, and Michelle's going to talk about this, but calling to get money from you. How awesome is that, making it personal about saying, 2 weeks ago you mentioned you were going to St. X's competition. How did you guys end up doing? You know what I mean? I think that would be pretty powerful too.
Yes, probably a really stupid but simple question to ask is, how's the weather doing your season?
Yeah.
I mean, you're right into my
Finally.
program, girl.
I was like, well, that's what I would ask.
Brenda's favorite question. Yeah. Just ask it. I mean, just something is that simple just gets a conversation started. It's like, oh my gosh, I know you had all kinds of snowfall up there in New York. Is everybody okay? That type of thing. So it's just kind of an icebreaker. and kind of get him to talk. I mean, the whole idea is that you want him to talk, so that you can find out more things.
And not even that, and, you know, 'cause where I'm from, you know, most of the islands, really, really hot and warm, so you don't wanna spend 20 minutes trying to sell warm-ups, but on the big island, it actually snows there. So you might wanna sell them warm-ups,
Yeah.
so it's good to know where, you know, what it's like during their season. So, I mean,
And she kind of leads into that, do a little research, you know, like, yes, check and see what the weather's like, where that coach is at that you're talking to, or maybe there's a big sports team there that you can look in and find out something that's going on and maybe make mention of that. Just finding those little connections, again, brings those barriers down. They start to trust you more, you start building a relationship, and, you know, you start becoming more friends, you find that common interest. What other types of things do you guys use to bring the barriers down? Other things that you say? And I know you got a lot of them. She hears you.
Really, I make it personal with them. I try to find out more personal stuff in that way.
How?
Asking them, so do you have any children? And typically, every mother wants to talk about their kids. And then I find out that their kid's on a dance team somewhere else, or, you know, they're coaching because their kiddo's in cheer. It just leads to more things, more stuff.
I don't think Ann will mind me sharing this story. This is the first time they shared this, but I know Ann was just calling back on what looked like a mother that probably ordered a pair of shoes for her daughter, and just in calling just to check back in, it comes to find out that the mother's now taking over for that league and is going to be the coach. So sometimes even just as simple as something little like that can turn into something really huge. You just never know, but without her asking some of those questions, and trying to dig in and get to know a little bit more about the mother and the daughter, she was able to come up with a way bigger sale in the end. So very good there. I would, you know, definitely keep in mind, like I said, the weather. Do some research. There may be websites, you know, that these teams have that they do, you know, social media, Facebook. Find out those things, so if you are calling out and prospecting, you know something about that school. Even if it's as simple as, like, you know, their colors are orange and black, they're the Tigers, whatever it may be. You want to become the expert on knowing about them so that you can get them to talk more to you and build that relationship.
I saw on the sports side, it was a lot easier to do icebreakers and relate to current topics. So like if the Super Bowl was coming up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, asking questions about relevant sporting events that are coming up either at college or pro level. That was always really easy. Yeah.
Because they'll talk all the help. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a very.
I used to, actually, when I did sports stuff too, and I would challenge any of you, whether you're sport or spirit, is I used to handle like the Louisville area and the Chicago area, and I would subscribe to, I favorites it, the Chicago Tribune and the Louisville Courier Journal, and I would always just kind of go through there. I'd schedule time to make sure that I was up to date, and the clients would be like, how the heck did you know that? Or even if it had nothing to do with the school they were at, just when me bringing up, how close are you to Bishop such and such? I saw that they just won this, and they're like, oh my God, they win everything. You know what I mean? Then the conversation turns to how maybe they don't like those guys, but then you're like, well, then our job is to make sure that you at least look better than them, or something. You know what I mean? Seriously, and then they start laughing about it, you know. And so you never know. Just by part of the homework that part of being a good rep is it can't always happen from 8 to 5. You got to sometimes do some of your homework, whether you're sitting on your iPad at home or whatever the case may be, and start thinking about what can I do right now in Manhattan, Kansas, to knock those walls down to separate me from whoever else that may come talk to them. So these are some of the, so what are some of the other things? I know you guys do all kinds of cool stuff to keep in touch or do something different from your customers.
Sure, Jamie.
I took one as a web order. She said, I don't have time to talk now. I'm taking my daughter to the orthodontist. She's got to get her braces on or off or something. But we did the web order, and a week later I asked her, I said, how is Katie? You know, and she goes, what do you mean? I said, well, she was going into the doctor last week. Oh my gosh, you remember that? And it's as simple as that, but that made her want to tell me more, and that led us into, hey, my son plays football. Okay, let me get you in contact with, hey, we can get your football stuff for you. Hey, my other daughter does dance. This one does cheer.
There's a whole world of information.
What did you do for her?
Nothing.
You made it.
I mean, yeah.
You want to see?
In your mind, you thought you were just doing
Yeah.
your job.
Right.
But when you become good at experience or sales or whatever, you're selling to someone and they don't even know you're doing it. That's where you ultimately want to get to. You're just communicating to them because they think you're their what? Friend, right? That's what we want to get to, and that's part of building the relationship. And it doesn't always, we need to get it also that we're building the relationship not only with us as reps, but with our company as well. Starting delivering and doing the things that we say that we're going to do with them. So.
Any other stories you want to share? Sure.
I had a coach, worked at Upper East and like the Maryland area. He's a big football guy, so I was telling him, I'm a Texans fan, and he's a Washington Redskins fan, and so we got talking about that. And anytime Washington had a game, I could call him and say, hey, I saw your Redskins got a good win, but it's a warm call for me, and it's a good call for him because he knows that I'm not trying to sell to him every time. I can lead into something else. He's an AD at the school, but he was also very influential. So we did polos for the whole staff, and not just the football uniforms that we did for them. So it led into a whole lot of other stuff. Just like I said, being a buddy kind of deal. So
That makes you the first person they think of. When they think, hey, we're gonna do polos for somebody, oh hey, Ryan works for that sportswear company.
But if you're only calling him if he's a Redskins fan every time they win, you ain't calling him.
Sometimes you gotta drop that in there too. Guys, it looked so hot. What happened?
You can still be friends about it.
Yeah.
The other side that I want to really make sure to stress y'all is notes. Like all these conversations that you're having with these coaches and building those relationships and getting that trust. You got to be using CLM. You got to be putting those notes in there so that there's a great record of what's going on. Following up with an email as well. You may talk to him one time, but maybe Mo Green's going to talk to him the next time, and we've got to have all those notes out there so that we know exactly what's going on and that they're basically doing business with GTM, so that anyone can help. With that, I want to kind of transition into how do you all take care of the customers that maybe are calling and they're not from your area? What do you do with those and how do you transition?
Help them anyway.
Help them anyway, okay? So, want to give me some examples of how that's worked or how you've transitioned to a different rep maybe?
Just let them know when they call in, I'm happy to help, let's get everything taken care of. I'm going to go ahead and send you over an email for a rep that actually works in your area, and she'll be, or he will be better able to help you in the future.
Okay. Good.
I would say an important question to ask is, are you currently working with anyone here? Rather than just automatically assuming that they don't or so on and so forth. Because I've talked to several people who, I generally, talk to this person, but, I just want to get this taken care of, and I don't really need to directly talk to that person. So that's an easy, because you don't have to do a transition, because they're already working with someone else. But if they aren't, or they've gone in between, because I have a lot of people tell me, well, I've been in limbo between reps. Well, then that's a good point to treat them as your own. Everyone's a GTM customer, regardless of region, sport, spirit, whatever.
Exactly.
And so you take care of them, and then with a follow-up, you explain to them, hey, I'm gonna write an email to you, send it to you. I'm gonna copy the representative that's an expert for your area, and then we have that sheet that you actually put on this.
Yeah, I put it in your packet as well too, so I
but
want to make
use
sure
that
you all
as a
have it
guideline.
too. That's a good thought.
But the
too.
follow-up is really important from the other rep.
Yes, very much so.
Rather than, oh yeah, you need to do this, and then it doesn't happen, then we all drop the ball.
And it's also really important that you make sure that you sell that customer on the rep that you're transferring to. Like, oh my gosh, Ann's great. She's been with us a long time. She takes care of her customer. Like, she's going to take care of it from here on out. Like, really, put that information out there for that customer so that they're really comfortable with okay, I trust that Mo Green said Ann's great and we're going to go that route. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a copy of that that transition etiquette is in the back of the packet as well. I would take it as if you get a phone call in, and even though they may call and say, I'm asking for Tim, you've got to assume that Tim is not available. So don't try to transfer the call back to him. Just take care of it. Take care of it as your own. Sure, let Tim know what's going on in the end and all that. Or if it isn't for Tim and you're transitioning, make sure you've got that smooth transition so that it's really a good experience for our customers. Okay. Sure.
I also feel like it's a really good rule of thumb, like if, like Anna, I think does a really great job of it. She's taken care of some of my customers and then transferred them to me, or new customers in North Carolina and then transferred them to me, saying, here's your new rep. She CCs me on that. And what I feel is important, like responding back to that customer and the rep right away,
Yes.
so that the rep knows that you have responded. Yes, I acknowledge you sent me the email. Thank you so much. And then you respond to the customer saying, hey Beth, I'm so excited to work for you, and let me know everything I need to know. I'll follow up on your samples in a couple days,
Nice.
kind of
Because
thing.
that not only builds trust with the client, but who else?
In between.
Internally,
Teams.
right? It's a two-way street. How many of you have all taken a phone call that says, I don't know who I was working with?
Yeah.
Raise your hand.
Yeah.
Who wants to be that person that no one remembers? Raise your hand now. Right? I don't see any hands up. We want to be memorable for them, and we want to, Brenda said, put the notes in there. We want to be able to have that smooth transition, right? So think about those things, and you don't want to be the person that nobody knows, okay? You don't want to be the person that is not memorable, that's not building the relationship with them, that's not providing a smooth transition. Well, I don't know who I worked with. Well, we don't ever want that message out there again, right? Don't be the person that no one knows. Make it memorable.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
I also try when orders come in from somebody from another region sends it into West Coast inbox and I pull it out. They usually CC the rep on it, that's supposed to be it. I try to email both back so that way they both know, because I don't want the one rep in the other region to be like, did this get done?
Yeah.
I don't know. But just to
That's
make
smart.
sure, and I hope that's helpful. I mean,
I would think
I
it
would
would be.
think, so. You don't do that.
No, that's a good thought. It's a good process to do. Okay, well, keep asking those open-ended questions. Notes are really important, and Michelle's gonna take us on and talk to us about how to go the extra mile, okay?
Thanks, Brenda. You know, we want to treat every single customer as your most important one. So by doing that, you want to make it personal. And one way to make it personal is by saying their name. How easy is that? I mean, I know I always do a trick, and I like to say that customer's name at least 4 times while I'm talking to them. That puts it back in my brain that I remember who they are whenever I walk out the door. Second of all, they know I know who they are. So, I mean, and who doesn't want to hear their name called? So, you know, just doing little things like that. Also making it personal. I want to know, like, what you guys do to make it personal. Give me some idea, or give me some stuff that you've done.
One of my most favorite things that we did was a customer wanted to see what the custom pom-poms look like. So we cut out a cheerleader and then did her orange color and twisted it with the black and white, all 3 different colors of orange, and then wrote the color of orange underneath of it and sent it in the mail to her. So not only did she get the color of orange, but she got the colors that she was going to mix it with, and then got to see all 3 colors together and what they would look like as a pom-pom.
Nice, really nice.
And
Well-
it saved us money for not having to ship out bonbons there and have
Right.
to ship them back.
Or send their own color.
Right. Good
That's a good
deal.
one.
Yeah, it is good. I know that on the outside, I would always go to the Friday night football games. I would have a list of all the teams that I did their uniforms for and figure out my Friday night schedule. Go to the game, take my camera, take pictures of the girls on the sidelines, take pictures of the girls doing their halftime routine. They just loved that I was there, couldn't believe that I was there. And then I'd go home, print the pictures off at Walgreens, and pop them in the mail to the customer or to the coach. And those girls just loved having those pictures come. Didn't know that they were getting them, you know, and didn't know that I was showing up. I didn't say, I'll be there on Friday night, you know. I just would pop in and just say hey, and, you know, just going that little, doing little extra things like that. It just, you know, just, it speaks words to them. They're like, they appreciate it. I know that Deb Fector had said that she goes to cheer competitions, and she just sits back and watches, and then she sends an email and tells them, you know, hey, you guys did awesome on Friday or Saturday or whatnot. So, give me some more ideas.
Along the picture line, sorry to be frank, I know a lot of the reps say they ask for pictures too.
Yeah.
Right? That's still making it personal for them because the clients love to talk about themselves. But just for the fact that you guys care enough to ask for them really is like more than just a C than a number sign beside it, more than just a customer number, right? That's what we want to get to. We want to get to more than just And then what do you guys do with them? You probably should utilize those and show some of the other customers who we work with. That's the part that's missing on some of that stuff too. So Shannon, you had an example.
Well, along that long, I had a customer send me their Zenith uniform, and everybody's looking at Ultra Foods. I'm like, let me send you this picture because it looks so cool. But as far as making it personal, I'm kind of like, I have like a go-to thing. Like, it's so funny. It's like, oh, how's your town? Like, I kind of ask about the town size, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just haven't seen a Starbucks in like 2 months because I live out in the boonies. So I mean, it's kind of a random thing, but it always gets them talking whether they're in a small town. They're like, oh, I'm from a small town too, or oh my God, I can't believe you live without a Walmart.
Right. I've got 82 Starbucks in the
Cool, I drive 2 hours for one of those.
Amanda Kerwin had a great example of what she thinks she's going to start doing, and I thought I would share this, and it came out earlier. One of the first questions she always asks is, well, do you have your customer number handy? How personal is that? She's like, I'm going to try to make it a point that I'm going to ask, you know, what's your name, or what school are you with? So it's twofold. Then she can get a list of all the schools on the side, so she can start talking about maybe some of the customers that our company already works with. But B, it's just instead of, I want to check on something. Okay, great. What's your customer number? Let's think about that for a second. We all are guilty of it, and I just appreciate for her having the courage to speak up and say that. So start thinking about some of those little things that we take for granted, but really how personal is that?
Because usually that comes within the first 5 seconds of the call. So
Right.
the customer usually doesn't identify themselves right away.
Right.
Because, you know, they'll, hello, this is GTM, da da da, and they'll say, yeah, I'm calling to check on my order. Great, do you have your customer number? Instead of being able to say, you know, may I ask who I'm speaking with? And
Right.
it says Brenda Richards. Great, Brenda, it's so nice of you to call today. Yes,
Right.
let me check on your order. What school are you with? You know, so at least you've got their name right at the upfront. And so like Michelle, you like to say their name 4 times. Well, now you've already got it once because you said their name. And then when you actually have the answer, to be able to say, okay, Brenda, your order is actually ready to ship and it'll be on its way, da 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 da. You know, so I think that is really important.
It's even not only that, when they call in to place an order. The
Yeah.
next question is, great, have you ordered with us from before? Okay, awesome. What's your customer number? Well, think about how we can make those things personal. And if they haven't ordered them with us before, that takes a different path. And then we get into all those great questions about values and how you're going to try to become their friend and what got them into coaching and all those things. So just think about some of those little things.
It's the really small things too that, so on the customer satisfaction, you know, we're trying to climb back up. You know, we used to have an 82% customer satisfaction rating, which is phenomenal. Those small things that we take for granted every day about just getting somebody's name first is so much better long term, and it helps us grow faster to get back to the customer satisfaction. Because think about all the places that you personally call. You know, it's like you call, you know, your electric company and something, you know, you talk about your bill. You're a number, you're not a person. And so it's like, do you ever really feel like they're like, Mary, it was so awesome that you called about your electricity bill today. Thank you so much. You know, so having that type of enthusiasm is setting yourself apart again. And what makes GTM so much different than any of our competitors, it used to be that we had phenomenal service. Over the last 7 months, that used to be went away. And so we need to work really hard at it. And I think these are the type of things that we just have kind of taken for granted that, you know, that we do, but it's really, really important.
In addition to the names, I found it trying to use that a lot more of, you know, what's your name, and kind of leading into that, depending on how new the client is, but asking them to spell their name, not just going with Chris, not knowing if it's starting with a K or a C, or, you know, Christy ending with an IE or just the I, but a lot of times I'll talk to a client and they just get it wrong every time, so it doesn't matter. No, it does matter. I want to get your name right. You know, I want to set your account up with your name spelled correctly. You know, so a lot of times I try to say, you know, well, how do you spell that? You know, is that the traditional spelling, Brian, with an I or with a Y? You know, so something like that. So it's a little bit more personal.
Shows that you care.
Or you can say, I want to make sure I get that in correct for you. Just some, you know, some that is a little extra.
Let me ask you this. How many of you try to make it personal have you all seen the new product stuff yet, or some of you seen all the new products? What are your thoughts? Really awesome, right? So now think in terms of how you can utilize that. I'm thinking specifically maybe in camp or any of the new warm-ups or any of that stuff, how cool is it for you to take, now that we can design the thing and snippet that, send it. Miranda, I was just thinking about you. We got this new camp shirt in, and I know that your team did this last year, but I thought about this and I designed it and I wanted to see what you thought. That's freaking making it personal for them, but and then, you know what I mean? Then the chance of maybe getting that sale is increased, but it just shows that you care about them enough that you thought of those people when you saw that product and you designed something with their school logo and stuff like on it. So utilize the tools that we're given to help close sales, but also it's really building that relationship. We talked about becoming the expert briefly at the beginning. That's showing that you're an expert to them.
To build a relationship, I feel like sometimes telling a customer that something's not gonna look too great makes you the expert, and then then eventually like just do whatever you think's gonna look best. I know what you're gonna do.
Right, trust you.
Especially me talking to a woman who's been a guy being like, that's not gonna look good. They like look at me like, well, why not? And usually it's an upsell. You're gonna sell them something that's gonna look nicer, maybe more expensive, but they trust you so much more that you don't want to put them in something that's gonna not look nice, like doing an illusion jacket and putting sport cup on the back because they're trying to save some money. People, I feel like take that that means a lot to people when you're trying to like do the best for them, and it's probably putting more money in our pockets by upselling anyways, but they end up calling you and being like, hey, whatever you know is best, what do you think's gonna work with this? And then they're doing what you're telling them to do, and then, like you said, designing for them. Nobody really doesn't like something that you designed for somebody else, I've noticed. And I know that design's ugly, so I think like, oh, how about this one? They usually seem to love whatever we pick.
Man, I want all the clients that you were.
I'm sure it's the man telling the woman, oh, that's not gonna look good. What? Why is it gonna look good? That's funny. Yeah.
To comment on what Matt said, to expand on it a little bit, I think it goes back to the honesty.
Yeah.
If they say, well, we want to get this and we want to use this template, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's good, yeah, okay, yeah. Rather than saying, you know, you've done this for a couple of years in a row, why don't we try something different? We got some new exciting stuff, and that way they know that you're not just a robot that is taking money from them. You're somebody who legitimately, genuinely cares about the well-being and look of their team and them and want to make their life easier. Like what Corey said, they need to do what they do best, and that's coach. We take all the responsibility for the back end.
Well, and go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is, I guess, kind of maybe more making it personal back towards me, towards GTM, towards us, but something's getting done on the front end. I mean, you know, I've only been here a day and a half now at this point in time, and I've got 2 or 3 emails of customers that have emailed and said, hey, Chris, my stuff showed up. It looks great. Thank you very much. Obviously, there's a relationship being built there that they feel comfortable enough unsolicited to just send a reply back, number one. Then number two, I kind of take it a step further and I send it to my account manager and my manager, say pass this around to whomever, because it's not about me, it's also about us as GTM, as a team.
And what did Miranda say? One of the most important takeaways that she wants us to start doing is to what? Share what? Good job, Chris.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, and also we need to do what we say we're gonna do. So by that is, if you tell your customer or your client that you're gonna call them back on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, you call them back at Tuesday at 2 o'clock. You set yourself an alarm on your computer, you set it on your phone, whatever it is, on the outside. If you're gonna be there at an appointment at 2 o'clock, you better be there 15 till, waiting in the parking lot, getting yourself pulled together before you walk in, because nobody wants to be waited on. Nobody wants to be dissed, and nobody wants, their time is precious to them. So you need to make sure that you are in tune to that. So they are doing, you are doing what you say you're gonna do. And that just goes back to building that trust and the credibility with yourself. We also wanna make sure that we say hi, not bye. So with that is checking out their team website. If they had a cheer competition or they had a big game last week, you check and see how they did and give them a shout and just say, oh my God, you guys won. How awesome is that? You guys look great on YouTube. I watched your competition. Or I saw that you guys got first place on your football championship, or whatever it is. I mean, I know that Oklahoma has like an all-state cheer competition. So I streamed it on my iPad while I was working and made sure I saw what teams that the teams that I'd worked with that was competing. And then whenever I watched that competition, I texted that coach immediately. It was like, oh my God, you guys rocked it. You did so good. The commentator said you guys are probably going to win, and I was just letting them know, like, everything that I heard and what I saw, because
you know, they're right there live, and the coaches were like, oh my God, did you think we won? How did we do? And what about that stunt? And I mean, just all of that, and they were just like, you really saw it? And I was like, heck yeah. You know, I mean, just doing that little bitty extra little stuff, it just, you know, brings it all together so they don't think you're gonna call them every single time and say, all right, what do you want? You know, so you're just setting them up so they know, hey, she's my friend and she really truly cares, you know. But, and then that goes back to referrals. So whenever you are with them, you can, you know, they say, she took such good care of me, I'm gonna have you call so-and-so. Or whenever you're in the cheer with the cheer coach and you say, let me talk to your dance coach because I don't wanna make sure that she doesn't get anything you got. You know, because, I mean, that's a big thing too, is, you know, that's how you can build your pipeline. That's how you build your whole network. It's so much easier to talk to somebody that wants to talk to you than making a phone call and just calling a call list, you know, so.
Can the high not buy, the other thing too, so like holidays are, so each of you should have, you know, your top 20 customers. Because as you know, there is a small percentage of our customers here at GTM that make up the biggest dollar.
Right.
And so small things like holidays can be very impactful. Even though here at GTM we send a mass email to all of our customers and we send them Christmas, you know, little postcards and things, coming from you as their rep, I mean, there are still customers. I don't have customers that I have like for 7 years now. I still personally send customers that I don't even talk to on a regular basis. I still send them, you know, Merry Christmas, I'm thinking about you and your family. For some of the ones that are like kind of goofy ones, I'm like, Happy Halloween, you know, and like stuff like that. Hope you have fun today. Valentine's Day, I know for the sports guys, they're like, I'm not sending them out. But you know, there's even like funny ones too, though, where it's like Groundhog Day, you know, things like that, where it's like you can make humor out of it, and or if there's like, you know, something in particular that you personally find funny. You know, like if you're really quirky and it's donut day and you want to send a picture of a donut or something that's weird, I think that's weird, but I would laugh my butt off if I got it from somebody and be like, that's awesome, thanks, I just made my day.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes you don't know what's happening in your customers' lives, but small emails can be like brighten their day, and that's a high not buy, because you don't want anything in return, but those are special occasions that really mean something to them.
Let's think about that internally second. How many of you all have gotten a shout out? Raise your hand. How many of you have given shout outs? How long did it take to write it?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. How did you feel when you got it? Awesome. It's no different than emailing your customers, but don't forget, we're all customers of each other. We're all on the same team. So think about some of those things too and be like, just wanted to let you know I really appreciate your help on this, because Randy, you never know, that last person you got off the phone just must have like completely pissed you off. Next thing you know, you're turning around and you're like, thanks a lot. You know, and all of a sudden, boom, you're better. So don't forget about each other in here too. That's why we talk about convenience and being a team. We can't be a team unless we don't put deposits in each other's bank accounts too.
And building each other up, you know, so it's all about relationships outside and inside. But, you know, we also want to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do, and that is letting that customer know from the get-go, at the very beginning, what the plan is. So tomorrow you're going to get your samples. You're going to fit your kids on Thursday. I'm going to call you on Friday with your sizes, and you're going to get your artwork. You're going to have personalization that you've got to approve, and you get going on your POs. So I'll get my stuff going on my end. We're all ready to go, so the order ships on time. You know, so if you set them up from the very beginning, you don't have to close the sale. You've already done it. You know, so you've got the steps built for them, and then give them what they need, what they have to do, so they're accountable as well. You know, so you're not stressed out at the end and freaking out having to get it on one of our must-ship lists. No, but anyways, I'm going to pass it back to Corey so we can wind this up.
She forgot to mention always
yes,
thank your
you for the
clients,
sale.
and that's okay.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
thank them for the sale, which usually leads me into the end. And I put this quote in there because there's a very awesome class that's going to be coming up about a year-end customer and plan for your customer. the sale just does not end right now on, okay, well, thank you so much for your business, okay, blah, blah, blah. Brenda had mentioned earlier about what's next and all those things. So a couple takeaways that I want you guys to think about is we have to obviously ask open-ended questions. We got to start building a relationship, and it takes time with trust. We got to do what we say we're going to do. We got to think about how we're going to go the extra mile and treat each customer like their most important one, and that we're going to make it personal. But I also want you to think about that the customer is not just your customer. We want them to become a customer for GTM. And the quicker we can get them to become raging fans for us, Miranda stole my thunder earlier, but we had an 82% customer satisfaction rate in the past, and I don't know if you guys have any idea what that means. Let me tell you something, that was as high as Harley Davidson and some of those other companies. Meaning people were out there, that means 82 out of 100 people were going out there and telling everyone how awesome that our company is. So we have to do all these little things by putting notes in there. So just the customer calls in, speaks with Melissa, and she does a great job and goes out there and sees them in Kansas and talks about all these great things. Well, then when Jeff gets the phone call, Jeff knows exactly what Melissa talked about. We take these little things for granted, but this is how critical it is to build that relationship, not just with you. We got to start by building it with you so they start to believe you and all those things, but we ultimately want to get back to building the trust and relationship with our company as well. So it takes all these little things. So my challenge and takeaway for you guys today is I want to ask, and the managers know this is coming, but I want you to think about and email your manager at least 2 things that you learned how you're going to try to make it personal for your customers, and I want you to start doing that as early as next week, something new that maybe you haven't heard about. And I also want you to think about 2 or 3 questions that you're going to write down, and Brenda says to put on your computer and email these to your manager. What 3 questions you're going to start asking immediately to start building these relationships so we can get back to have our clients be the raving fans for us. And for that, and on behalf of these 2, personally want to just say, awesome feedback to you guys. That was great. I appreciated the interaction. I hope that you guys got something out of it. And what questions do you have for us? I know that this was a lot of information, so if there's something that wasn't clear, any questions off the top of your head?
I have a question for the group.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what the current customer satisfaction is?
That was my question.
I think I know it. I thought they said 47.
No, currently, as of last month, it was in the low teens. So we were only at 12% as customer satisfaction. So the good news is that it was -3 in September. We've become positive now, but there is a very, very large gap between 82% and where we are today. So
I think it's just Clayman's research. I don't know if we.
I mean, are they posting it somewhere?
We probably could display that. And show
yeah, I
this.
think it.
Does he put it on the intro?
I'm guessing
I know
maybe
the
we can start
managers-
putting it in the fact.
Yeah.
The frequently asked questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Where's our customer?
One thing I want to point out, I know some of this stuff seems basic, but I want you to think about 2 things. Setting in our sales floor and customer experience, 6 out of every 10 people is brand new. And so that is, I want to just say thanks, and I appreciate the mix of experienced people and rookies, from customer experience to everyone, because that's how you really grow and learn from each other. Thank you. One thing I want to think about is there's still a lot of stuff the rest of the day. Give the people the same attention that you gave us and try to provide as much feedback with you can, because it really makes the classes that much more enjoyable. So, thanks guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.